What do you say to those people that just don't get it?
That I'll see them at the end.
So as someone that sees the fork truck guy, the person staring at a spreadsheet 8 hours a day, or listening to the Joe Rogan podcast while at work, it was a great shout out on audio content today. But for anyone that missed that speech, can you just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we're living through a time where audio consumption is exploding. I think it's because people want to do multiple things at once. We are multitasking at a level that we've never seen before. People are now listening to a podcast, watching TV, working on their phone. I think the capacity of the human being to do a lot is far greater than most people realize. And for that reason, I believe that podcasts are a very big space that has still been untapped, even though we've seen enormous success. I believe Joe Rogan is going to eventually sign a $100 million plus deal to go exclusive on a platform because there's that much attention. And so, yeah, I think everyone should look at audio.
Now, many people listening will manage their home lighting, their home entertainment and home heating, all using their voice. And yet when they enter the office at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, it feels like going back in time to 2009. So our expectations as consumers are going to change everything, aren't they?
They will. And I think people running their homes through a voice infrastructure is still quite low. Very techie, nerdy people have gotten there.
Like me.
But I do think in 10 years, you will see that become the norm. And I think you're right. I think offices are going to be challenged and required to catch up with our home infrastructure. It's going to be very frustrating when you navigate your entire home and your car and your life through voice, and then you get to the office and you have to go back to your phone, which now seems like remarkable technology. So I do think every conference room and every office will be wired with speaker technology or listening technologies, I'll call it, because who knows where the advancements go into. Yes, I believe that.
And for 178 years, Thomas Cook shaped the way we travelled and how we saw the world. And we both know how that story ended. And what fascinates me is the correlation between the downfall of Thomas Cook and the rise of digital platforms such as Airbnb, Culture Trip, and so many others. And referring back to your keynote, that's what consumers are doing right now. But my question to you is, what do you think business can do to compete and survive when they're behind the digital curve? How do they play that game of catch-up?
Well, if they're a publicly traded company, they don't.
Yeah.
The reason they can't catch up is they can't take the financial hit to invest in the infrastructure. It's really hard to be a company that's being measured on every 90 days financially to go make an investment into AI or voice, because when you make that upfront capital investment but you don't get the immediate return, you're held to a scrutiny, and that's why big companies lose to little companies all the time.
And our world is dominated by technology now, but what impacts do you see tech, automation, AI, etc.? And how's that going to change our daily work lives? And how does businesses manage that change? And by that I mean job roles are going to evolve, and how do managers manage that kind of situation?
I mean, this has been historic. Like, factories had to adjust to machines, farmers had to adjust to tractors, retail stores had to adjust to registers that were computers versus cash. This is not complicated. Yeah. This is historic. I just think that people are bad at history. I was a terrible student except for one class, history. And I think that's what's made me good at this. When I first started working for my dad's liquor store, he did not take credit cards. And I kept telling him, Dad, people are walking into the store and leaving and going to different liquor stores because it's 1992 and people use credit cards. And eventually he felt the pain enough to take credit cards. I don't feel bad for somebody who does a job that a computer is going to take over. Here's why. That has always happened. That's not my fault. That's not your fault. That's not, Tencent or Facebook or Google's fault. That has always happened.
Absolutely.
We used to not have traffic lights, and somebody used to get paid to help you get through intersections. Like, does everybody cry when they get to the airport and they go through a machine now, not somebody who checks your passport? No, they're happy because they don't want to wait 15 minutes. Because your job's in jeopardy. Don't be a hypocrite. You know that's coming. Autonomous cars. If you're a truck driver and you know autonomous trucks are coming in 20 years, and you're a 28-year-old truck driver, and you know autonomous trucks are coming in 20 years, at 48, Is it autonomous trucks' fault, or is it your fault for not creating a new skill and getting a new job? Whose fault is that? We need to get into accountability, not into demonizing technology.
100%. We've talked a lot about the future, but I want to take you in time a little bit here now, because in September 2008, just 3 months after the Apple launch, you gave your first TED Talk at the Web 2.0 Expo. I'm curious, is there anything you would add to that TED Talk if you were to do it all again today, and what tips would you give to businesses about innovation?
I would have ended it with, and in 10 years you'll see that I'm right. I mean, that talk was about making content on the internet, and every single person and company that invested heavily into that thesis has had dividends. Now, they might have overextended themselves, raised too much capital, they could be out of business for other reasons, but the attention of human beings has clearly, over the last decade, advanced dramatically on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and podcasts. And so, like I said then, to smurf it up, I believe that today. I believe today that we've never lived in a time where if you love sneakers, that you can build a $200,000 a year business around talking about sneakers. That's remarkable. People didn't believe me 10 years ago. People may think it's hard today, but they believe it could be done. 10 years ago, they didn't believe it could be done. In 10 years, people will realize that's exactly what I should be putting my energy into. And so, maybe I would have talked about the psychological happiness that comes along with that strategy 10 years ago. Now that I'm a little more educated on what stops people from doing it. But yeah.
And you mentioned Facebook, man. I know you're a big fan of Facebook and you've called it early, but it seems that the regulators have got them in their sights at the moment. How do you see that panning out? Is that something that marketers...
Poorly. I'm a fan of Facebook when it's the most underpriced attention. I'm less of a fan of Facebook if you're trying to reach 40 and under today. I'm much more of a fan of Instagram. And if you're trying to reach 15, I'm much more of a fan of TikTok. I'm an enormous fan of Facebook if you're trying to reach 50 to 90. They live on it. So, it's fun, even when you ask the question where my brain went was historically, there is nothing I will ever be a fan of that I will stay a fan of. Because I follow attention. I don't fall in love with platform. I was a huge fan of email in 1997. I was an enormous fan of Google AdWords in 2001. I loved direct mail in 1994. I believed in television commercials. I don't believe in those things anymore, the same way I don't believe in MySpace today, or Vine.
And something else you called out earlier was esports, of course, and there's going to be some people out there that say it ain't a sport unless you sweat, but let me tell you, I sweat after when I'm 2-0 down in a game of FIFA. That's a different story. So can you tell me about why you've now chose to invest in esports and what excites you about that venture?
It's starting to mature and get organized. It's less of the wild, wild west. I believe that Call of Duty is a game that can play the long tail. It's historic. It's a challenging game. It's a Western game. It's not going to play in China and other places. But I saw an opportunity to invest in a franchise with NFL owners in a very established league. And
so your message has always been about working hard, offer value, patience, rinse, wash and repeat. And it's a simple message that I'm fully subscribed to, and one of the reasons I'm sat here with you right now. I overheard a guy say at a recent event, I just don't understand what Gary is selling or what he's offering me. I'm a businessman that's not interested in flipping a garage sale. So what do you say to those people that don't grasp how you flipped it? Nothing is for sale. And merely giving your message and offering value, that's what it's all about. What do you say to those people that just don't get it?
That I'll see them at the end. I respect why somebody, first of all, I believe that people often judge the way one communicates versus the way of what that person is actually saying. And I have to be self-aware. I have a very Jersey, high energy. I'm aware why some people may think I don't bring value because the style throws them off. I think my substance has been very historically correct. I would tell that person that forget about me telling people how to flip. Why did the video that I posted yesterday about flipping get 1.3 million views on Instagram, and how can he, with whatever he's trying to sell, figure out how to be a contemporary communicator like I am and take advantage of Instagram or LinkedIn or TikTok or podcast? It's not about how I'm filling the pipes, because maybe flipping doesn't work for you. Maybe self-esteem isn't something you care about. Maybe parenting isn't something you care about. But the way that I'm reaching or creating awareness matters. I'm sure that every business would like to figure out how to never ever come to Armenia in their lives, and when they come, many people want to talk to them. That's called building brand. Every business and organization can learn from that.
It's a beautiful moment to end on. Thanks so much as always, Gary.
Thank you, brother.